Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Gachiakuta Season 1, Episode 3. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I also want to start this by being like, I've been listening to that opening for the past couple days, on repeat. I just really like it. In case, you never looked it up yourself and you're curious, the band is called Pale Dusk and the song is called Hugs. I've never I don't know if there actually is a full version of that song out, because the only version I've been able to find is the opening version. I know you can find it on YouTube because Crunchyroll uploaded the opening itself to their YouTube channel. So, but that's the only there might be a full version out there that I haven't found, but most versions I've come across have always been the opening version of it, not the full song. But either way, maybe there isn't a full version of the song out yet, but like I said, I could be mistaken. But putting all that aside really quickly, we're picking up relatively after the events of last episode. Injin has taken Rudo to get checked out by the doctor, who is snapping at him, being like, "Oh, you ungrateful little bastard. You don't know what's going on here. You should be thanking Injin." And Injin's kind of got this very I'm that cool guy, because the doctor's like, "Yo, you should be paying Injin some... You're the one that immediately came here and got kidnapped." It's like, I was about to say, I was like, well, Injin kind of played his own role, but it's like, well, to be fair, Injin left Rudo to his own devices and kind of put him in a position to be taken advantage of and kidnapped. And, he let it all play out instead of stepping in just to, prove whether or not, Rudo was a giver or not. But still. And he also pays for your medical fees and stuff like that, so takes you out for lunch. But then later on we found out he actually sold your clothes, and some of the money used to give that little bit of pocket money he gave you at the end was from selling your clothes, plus that money also went towards paying for the meal you're eating. It's like, yeah, Injin's going to be the sly type, it seems. But yeah, he ended up giving Rudo kind of a rundown of everything. It's kind of like, well, it's a good thing I sold your clothes, because if people know you're from the Spear, Spearites aren't really welcome. You go around telling people that's where you're from. Hey, you can do your own thing, but nothing in this world comes for free. Information costs money, and you start asking certain questions, people start piecing it together where you're from, you're going to have a whole other issue. I mean, hell, you nearly got kidnapped, and they were going to sell you pieces of you for the purpose because they think you're a Spearite. I think it's been so long that they don't know what the culture of the Spear is. I mean, and I don't think that'll mean anything. The regular, high-class folk versus the tribe folk, I don't think any of that will mean anything to them, because it's you're still from the Spear. Who cares if your life is shittier than the other people in the Spear? You're just as culpable. I think I brought that up last episode as well, but I wonder how much they do know about the Spear. Do most people die when falling into the pit by those trash beasts, or the only way you'll survive is if you just happen to be, well, for one, Rudo happens to be a giver, and he also happened to be saved by Injin, who happened to be in the area. Which, speaking of the trash beast, we break it down that basically trash isn't the only thing that piles up here, it's anima. Basically, I guess all the I don't know if that's meant to be the resentment and hatred and emotions of just the people that live here, or just maybe the dead amalgamate, and that's what gives birth to the trash beast. They usually stay to their area, but on occasion they can find their way to the city. And the reason why they never build any boundaries around the cities is because, well, humans don't like being cooped up, so might as well just kind of leave it as is. It's kind of living fast and loose. We recognize the danger, but living cooped up will be just as much of a problem, so we take the risk with the freedom, But basically nothing can work against trash beasts except what they call vital instruments. These are the weapons that givers have. It's the whole, yes, it's a very specific object. Because I think I cut it out of the previous recording, because my question was because I think my understanding and I thought was kind of to some extent, but I kind of corrected myself later on in the recording what I did keep in there. But my thinking was, let's take Injin for example. Could he use any other umbrella? No. As a giver, you're tied, or at least what we see, you're tied to one specific object. Obviously, we'll get to it in a second, but Rudo is an exception. But yeah, you're tied to one specific object. Your connection and care to a specific object is what turns it into a vital instrument. But that doesn't mean Engine can apply this to any other umbrella. That the one he has significance, and there's history, and there's feelings and emotions attached to it, turning it into a vital instrument. And those are the only means of fighting the trash beast. We saw a glimpse of the organization. I get, what was it? Akuda is the organization, the cleaners that him and was it Zonka work for. But we saw a few, like obviously their silhouettes. We only see their silhouettes, but there can't be that many givers out there. And I'm wondering, is their cleaning organization the only cleaners, or are there other competing cleaning organizations? That'd be interesting if there are, but there might just be the one. There might be a group that has, the Akuda group might end up having like the monopoly on cleaners, but who knows? Obviously, the clashing of personalities seems to be like a running theme this episode, as Rudo's personality clashing with like the very carefree nature and very flippant nature that is Engine's, and then the very like easily angered like Zonka. He seems like he might have an easygoing personality, but I think it's like, I don't know if that's supposed to be the shtick, that he seems a little bipolarish, where it's like he can be chill and calm and nice one moment and then just fly off the handle for the simplest things. Like, it just definitely seems like he can go from 0 to 60 really quickly. Well, obviously, but first, you had Rudo running after the cat that snatched his money. He grabbed Zonka's staff because he needed something to hold the cat down. And Rudo's not the most well-mannered person. Obviously, like, people have constantly treated him like shit. Not only, like, even the tribes folk, because of who his dad was. So he's not used to being nice to people. So, like, when people want to fight, he's ready to fight too, because he's had to deal with it his entire life. So you kind of grow a little resentful, and you kind of, always has his guard up, and he's ready to kind of fight if need be. So once again, the clashing of personalities between him and Zonka, because Zonka's like, yo, you took something from me, and then you're just going to like, because Rudo didn't immediately apologize. He didn't make it clear like, yo, it's like, oh, it's a dumb stick, but we just had the conversation about how important your gloves are. It was given to you by all intents and purposes the only dad you really consider to be your dad, Recto. But also, like, I got it right last episode. I figured as much. His whole, once again, like I said, initially I was thinking like, oh, he can make anything into his vital instrument, because like I said, I was still under that impression that's how it worked for everyone. But it's like, no, his vital instrument is the gloves, and it allows him to turn any object into a vital instrument. So, but either way, him and Zonka ended up tussling, because Zonka's like, yo, he ended up bad-mouthing Recto. Obviously, he doesn't know Rudo's circumstances. He doesn't care, but you always have to be careful, because that's the whole shtick of, the whole thing of, you never know what anyone's going through and what they're experiencing, so you always have to be careful. You never know what thing you say might trigger them. And Rudo was about to get pissed, but he calmed himself down, because he thought about what Recto taught him, how to, like, with any situation, you want to try and resolve it first with just like a conversation and just kind of de-escalate things. So taking that, he apologizes, because he realizes, it's like, right, you got to walk a mile in someone's shoe and understand their feelings. And in this moment, it's like, right, I took this guy's staff. He's like, it's important to him. It's his treasure. I'd react the exact same way if someone took my gloves. So he apologized, and Zonko's like, hey man, it's good. I get it. You apologize. You even giving it back, so we're good. He's smiling, and Rudo's like, yo, like, how can he smile like that? He's like, oh, that's just kind of what you do. He's kind of not hearing all the stuff Zonka's, hey, which we pick up some of it, where he's like, his go-to thing is like calling people scuzzballs, because it's specifically people look down upon him because his treasure is a staff. We don't know why it's so important to him. We also don't know why the umbrella is so important to Engine. But regardless, Rudo, tries to like smile, but Zonka takes it as a defense. He's like, oh, are you making fun of me? He's like, no, I'm trying to smile. It's like, that's not a smile. He tries it again with his mouth. It's like, he hasn't had much reason to smile living the life he has. So now it turns into a tussle. And because, now he's pissing him off, because he's like, yo, like, because Rudo's thing is, I'm not officially joining the cleaners. I'm only sticking around long enough to get what I want. And he's like, yo, what we do is important, and you're just going to be so flippant about like, oh, it doesn't matter. And I guess maybe it just kind of also showcases like maybe how important the cleaners are to Zanka. It might be like a place, a home for a lot of them, and for Rudo to be so dismissive of, oh, I'm just going to get what I want from him. I don't care about the cleaners. It's kind of like, no, fuck you, and that pisses him off even more, and it turns into a tussle, especially because Zanka talks about, whatever you're aiming for is kind of bullshit. And like, obviously the thing that's motivating Rudo to get back to the spear is, I need to get revenge. I need to find the piece of shit that killed my dad and get revenge. And it's like, you're going to talk about what I want to be BS. Picks up an object and starts fighting Zonka. And when he struck at him and we see the mark on his face, I was like, oh, did he cut his face? But then we find out after Zonka grabs it and smells it, it's poop, because Rudo is fighting with a plunger and he's not getting, he's like, why is this guy reacting this way? Because understandably, considering what their side of the spear is like, they probably don't have plungers. So for him, he just looks at it like, oh, it's a plunger. He's probably not even smelling it or realizing that he's caught up in the moment. And Zonka's freaking out because he's like, ew, stop flinging that thing at me. Cool, it's a truce. We're called truce. Leave me alone. Chases him down, hops in the air and flings it at him. My only takeaway was, Zonka, don't run away from the guy swinging around a plunger with your mouth open screaming. Luckily, none got in his mouth, but it did get over his clothes, and he was immediately defeated. I mean, I love when Injin shows up and he's busting a gut about the whole situation. The way he says, like, basically, Zonka is like the equivalency of a spoiled child here on the ground, which is funny. And both him and Rudo, like, obviously he's the most devastated from the situation. Rudo's kind of more so embarrassed. He's like, oh, that was a thing covered in poop I was flinging around so confidently. I was running around the streets flinging that around, thinking I got like a deadly weapon. It was like, no, I was flinging poop at him. That's why he had that reaction. But like I said, Zonka's the one that's the most embarrassing and heartbroken about the situation. But what I think it's, once again, kind of that personality switch that he has. Then when Injin's like, yo, he's like the best. Injin's like, yo, Zonka's like the great teacher to have because he's like the best when it comes to like vital instruments. And in that moment, Zonka's like, wait, Injin really believes in me? Like the Injin? So I wonder, I guess Injin might be like, I don't know. I'm curious to see if they have rankings amongst the cleaners. Like maybe there's a ranking system and maybe Injin's pretty up there. For like Zonka to have that reaction, almost like Injin's pretty top class. So I thought that was fascinating, but he was almost kind of getting a confidence boost, like, oh my God, the Injin said that about me. So I was like, interesting. What is that all about? And then also we got introduced to our other lead protagonist. I think her name's Rio. She's fascinated by, completely enamored and fascinated by Rudo's hair. And he's freaking out about it because, well, he hasn't had much experience with women. The only woman he really interacted with was Chiwa, and that's the person he crushed on. And obviously we know how that ended, which is also sad too, because like the memory he had from Erecto was Recto talking about like, oh, you want to handle things more calmly, because someone being able to do that is someone that Chiwa would be interested in. It's like, oh, that's kind of sadly kind of not the cute thing that it used to, because now it's like, she was so quick to turn on him, even though she made it seem like, yo, I was on your side, and all it took was, the argument could be like, maybe in her defense, in the grand scheme of things, she was always around Rudo and like choosing him and being by his side, that you now still staying by his side with it all could end up getting you thrown in a pit. So it is self-preservation. Or maybe she legitimately was just that much of an asshole where it didn't take that much to flip. That was my initial take, but now sitting on it, I'm like, no, it's most likely self-preservation, because they would think you side with him. She's still probably going to get a lot of guff because of that. Like, they're probably going to give her a lot of flack for like, oh yeah, you believed him not to be the murderer that he was. So she's probably still will catch a lot of shit for it, but not as much. And it'll probably a lot less consequential as like being thrown down the pit, so. But their next stop is going to be HQ. So it's going to be interesting to meet the boss and see who these other cleaners are. Obviously, like, these four are the only, based on the intro and having never read the manga, these four are the only characters I know. So the other characters are complete and utter enigma to me and anyone else that has never read the manga. So I don't even know who to expect, vital instrument wise, and what their powers are as givers, but also like who they are, like what they look like aesthetically, and also like what their personalities are going to be like. It's going to be interesting to kind of get a better picture and understanding of the organization, and maybe Rudo can find some answers to getting back to the spear. I wonder, is there anyone on the ground who has any interest to get to the spear either way? Because like this is their world, and there's even something Rudo commented on where it's like he thought like he'd find nothing but trash down there, but it's like no, they have a full societies. They have a city built. There's food, so it's not anything. I mean, no one knew what to expect down there in the pit, but we'll probably explore that even more when we learn more about HQ in the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.